Welcome and thanks for coming to share the celebration of Barry's life, both here and in person and online. The first reading will be done by Kieran.
Today we remember Barry and celebrate his life. We talk openly of life, of the joyful times we had and the joyful times we will have together. But when someone dies, death gives no joy. It has no voice. We have muted it because there are no more times to have together. While the remembrance of death is painful, the remembrance of those who lived, those we have loved, is joyous. They have left footprints implanted in our minds, in our hearts, and in the very essence of our being that shall remain forever. Death is sad, but remembrance is not. So let us remember Barry and his life together.
You have each been handed a pebble when you arrived. During our time together, reflect on what Barry meant to you and the footprints he has left in your minds and hearts. It could be a characteristic, a personal experience, how he impacted your life, or perhaps just one word that describes what Barry meant to you. Write the word on the pebble. We will ask for these pebbles a little later in our ceremony. I'd like to now call Hannah to sing Pius Jesu. Pious Lord Jesus, give them rest. Pious Lord Jesus, give them everlasting rest. I ask now Charlie Brown, Barry's oldest and dearest friend, to give his eulogy.
Hello everybody. It gives me great honor to be asked to present a eulogy for Barry on behalf of Helen. I'd like to start with a little poem that I think is extremely appropriate. To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated. But to be happy, I'm at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot speak, but I can listen. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a shore, gazing at a beautiful sea, as you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts and your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, and the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never have gone. On the 1st of December, I received the sad news of Barry's passing when I opened a message on my cell phone that Helen had sent, and I quote, I received the sad news at 1:45 a.m. this morning that my darling Bambi had found peace and been released from his suffering. My heart is broken that he is gone, but so thankful that he is no longer in the nightmare of the past month. Barry and I have known each other since our early school days, now some 60 years of friendship. We grew up in Westville when our school was still co-ed until Standard 8, when the co-ed Westville High School split into Westville Boys High and Westville Girls High. In those early days, we used to know Barry as Ketch, born out of ketchup or tomato sauce, I believe stemming from his crop of orange-red hair. We lived across the road from each other, not far from the old outspan tree, which is where the early wagoners would camp for their first night on the way inland, and around the corner from Rudy, Barry's uncle's home, with whom many adventures were to take place, amongst which was target practice, using the Indian farmers in the valley below Rudy's home, using a .22 rifle, believe it or not. What is a friend? I think the answer is maybe someone with whom one shares a trust and openness, is in good terms with, and can discuss and chat about anything, share opinions, and be open to advice from. From this perspective, I can assure you that Barry is and will always be a great friend. Let's turn to Barry's career, and I believe when we read from his CV, we discover Barry in a nutshell. Energetic, dynamic, and positive, results-orientated person with the ability to create, motivate, and lead winning teams. A strong track record of performance in turning around organizations. Stable job career reflecting success and achievement in all instances. I might throw in that he can also be quite stubborn. His proven worth is revealed no more simply than in the businesses he has turned around from lost entities to solid profit-making ones. I won't dwell on this aspect long as Leon from DLM will flesh out Barry's time with DLM. I'm truly grateful that I was fortunate to be with Barry and Helen on the Saturday before and the night before he passed, talking of our past adventures. I only regret that we do not get to play that game of golf, a game he so loved, which we had promised to do. I can still see us now, the first time we ever played together at Windsor Park in Durban. I managed a few fresh airs in front of the players waiting to tee off, quite embarrassing, whilst Barry just smacked his drive straight down the fairway. I'm sure he must have had some earlier practice. Another game that comes to mind is our squash games at Durban Light Infantry Courts at the Durban beachfront. We were very equal and loved to win, so the games would just go on. And of course the beer that Barry so dearly loved, that we would have after the games to quench our thirst. Funny thing is that we would spend the money on petrol to drive all the way down to those courts because we did not pay to play, and probably would have been less costly to play in Westville. Barry and I are probably quite fortunate to have survived until now. As I recall back in 1976 on a trip to Mozambique, when we were returning from Mozambique, taking turns driving. Around 1 a.m, we were driving through the Free State, and Barry was at the wheel while I was taking a nap. When I woke, I saw the car veering off to the right, heading for the mealie fields and the barbed wire fence, with Barry asleep at the wheel. There was a close shave as I grabbed the wheel, straightened the car, and we were back on the road, and Barry awoke with a fright. Whilst on the subject of cars, boys will be boys. So I have to mention that Barry managed to secure a set of keys for his mom's Mini, which we used to take for a spin when his folks were away. Then they were away again, and we were at it again. Except this time the car would not start. So what do? We push it out the drive and try push starting. From Barry's driveway there was lots of downhill, but the car still would not start however much we tried. And we ended up about 3 kilometers away. To cut a long story short, Barry's dad knew what we were up to, and he had removed the rotor. He sure taught us a lesson. One of the great drives we did was on another trip in Mozambique. I have no idea at the time how we had to take a bus from Lorenzo Marques to Punta de Ora on the Natal border, but we did. There we were chock-a-block on the bus with chickens and goats and you name it, but filled with joy and laughter all the way, and a couple of frosties with us to boot. Barry's love for cars goes way back to his early youth, where he always loved Ferraris, and I believe one of his dreams came true when he was able to buy one and to take it for a drive, especially at Kyalami. Also have to mention that Friday evening family meal at Barry's home, where if you were there you would smell the offal cooking. Barry's dad was a great cook, and Friday's dinner was the most incredible offal meal that he would prepare. It's just amazing how wonderful, all the wonderful memories just keep jumping into my memory of the tennis games, fishing with his dad, catching sunburn, the Drakensberg trip, sobering up in freezing streams, the Westville pub stories, the nightclub in Lorenzo Marques, bottles of tequila polished with lemon and salt and so on. But let's leave those stories for another occasion as I draw to conclusion. I'd like to mention Barry's wonderful family, Helen, Claire and the rest of the clan, with whom I've had the pleasure of spending many an occasion, and seen the love and friendship they share, and know from my heart that he will be sorely missed, but remember, he is at peace and we will surely meet again. Barry, you are a great guy. In conclusion, I'd just like to thank everyone here for sharing this occasion with us, and would love to share a thought I wrote. From now on, things may not be the same. But in our memory, you will always remain. It was far too early for you to part, and forever you will be in our heart. Thank you.
Leon Maritz, a DLM colleague and a friend, will speak about Barry's time at DLM, the company he ran for many years until he retired.
Hi, good afternoon. I worked for Barry for 18 years, and I would like to share some of my experiences and memories of Barry. Barry was not only an inspirational leader, but also a true friend to many at DLM. Barry worked at DLM for 24 years. He started in 1988 as the financial director of Duplay. In 1990, the company merged with Liquid Meters to become Duplay Liquid Meters. In 1995, Barry was made acting MD, and 6 months later he was appointed in a permanent position. Barry served in this position until his retirement in 2012. During this period, there certainly were challenges that the company faced. DLM was initially owned by the Murray and Roberts Group and was sold to the Protea Group in 1998. In 2006, the company was sold again to the Unihold Group. A year later, Unihold also wanted to be rid of us. Barry and his team took the bold step to buy the company, and together with Gary Harlow and DLM management, initiated an MBO from Unihold. This marked a significant milestone in Barry's career, but also in many other individuals at DLM, some of whom are retired and others still working at DLM. This gives a very basic summary of Barry's career. But what was it like to work for Barry? I will remember Barry for his toughness, his intelligence, and his wicked sense of humor. Barry was a man that did not suffer fools gladly. He demanded loyalty. You always knew where you stood with Barry. He ran the company with honesty and integrity. Barry was a larger-than-life character, definitely the alpha male in the company. But contrary to this, he was not a dictator. He appointed strong and competent people and gave them the space and confidence to do their jobs. Incompetent, disloyal, or dishonest people were not tolerated. There were no prisoners taken. He had a wicked sense of humor and believed in working hard and playing hard. Barry never seemed to go on holiday. Second to his family, DLM was his life. The only holiday that I knew of was a trip that myself and Barry took. In 2006, Barry and myself went to Namibia to visit Barry's uncle Rudy, who was the CEO of the Save the Rhino Trust at the time. Rudy was someone that Barry often spoke about and was someone that Barry held in high regard. This trip was the most unforgettable experience. Off-roading in the desert, sleeping rough under the stars. No tents, no amenities, no luxuries. Back to basics. We could reminisce on our army days. In a different environment, you learn something else about a person. Barry was in some ways very different in holiday mode. He made poor judgment calls. He put me in charge of finances, which proved to be an error on his part. He was disorganized. The arrangement was that I pick him up at 3 a.m. at his house in Sundowner. When I got there, he had just returned from the pub and hadn't packed a thing. His clothes were neatly folded on the dining room table with the Edgar's tag still attached. This is what Claire had bought from him the day before. The only thing he remembered were 2 cartons of cigarettes. Keep Barry calm at the border post. Barry had zero tolerance for rude officials. He couldn't read a map. When I asked him to check for directions, he politely declined. And if you know Barry, he wasn't so polite. Risk taker. On the way home, we slept over in Botswana and realized we only had enough money for accommodation and fuel. No money for food or booze. and there were no credit card facilities available. Barry decided fuel was less important, and if we did run out, we could call the Rustenburg branch and they could send a rep to bring us fuel. We had a night to remember and possibly forget. When you really got to know Barry, you realized that he had a massive heart and it gave him great pleasure to share. He was passionate and committed to his family and to his job. He was a true friend. To Helen and Claire and to the rest of the family, from all Barry's friends at DLM, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Barry will be missed by all. Thank you.
Can I ask Margie to come up, please?
I was told to take my sunglasses off because it makes me look like a gangster, but Barry would understand after having the cataract op that the glare is really mean. Barry wasn't a particularly religious man, but he happened to marry into a Catholic family, and as anyone knows, once a Catholic, always a Catholic. There was always a mischievous twitch of his moustache when he would refer to Helen's parents as the Catholic rabbits. Helen is the oldest of 6 children, 3 girls and 3 boys. The Munro family became known as Rent-A-Crowd. Barry could count on his family on his one hand, whereas the Munros needed an abacus. It was at Michelle, Helen's daughter, and Miguel's Catholic wedding that for the first time Barry got to understand the deeper meaning of religion, tradition, ritual, and being part of a Catholic family. Barry found deep meaning and understanding after listening to the following reading and the priest's explanation of it in relation to marriage during their wedding ceremony.
Can I ask him to please come up?
Reading 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 4 to 8a. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails.
The bridging prayers will be read by Michelle, Claire, and Laura.
Dear Lord, please give all those who have lost their husbands, their person, the strength to continue and to remember the joy and not dwell in the loss. Lord, hear us.
Dear Lord, bless those who mourn the loss of a parent or grandparent. May they face each day with the hope and certainty that nothing can destroy the fond memories of the loved ones they have shared with their family. Lord, hear us.
Dear Lord, thank you for being with us right now. We confess that we don't understand why things happen the way they do. We don't understand why illness and death come into our lives. We pray for the faith to believe that you walk every path of life with us. Lord, hear us.
Can I ask Leland to come and say his prayer?
Dear Lord, please hear us now, and please protect everyone, and please please take your wings and shield, put it around us. Please protect everyone up in heaven and down here on earth. We love you, and hear us, Lord. Amen.
We'll now be playing the voice notes.
Bambi. So I would stand up in front of everybody and try and do a speech. But I felt that if I wanted to get across what I really wanted to say, I would be too nervous to do it. So I've chosen to do a voice note, and I hope that everybody likes what I have to say. Bambi. They say people come into your life at the right time and place. I always feared when my parents got divorced as to who would take care of my mom. It consumed my every thought until you, Mr. B, arrived on the scene. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of relief. Relief knowing my mom had finally met her match. I think for Bambi, he had it far harder walking into a house full of girls and trying to understand our crazy catfights. And boy oh boy, did us girls fight with one another. Bambi would sit in the corner watching plates and hairdryers and so much more go flying all over the house. That on its own was something, if anybody had to come into my mom's life, would have to accept. And Mom, Barry was truly meant for you, because if that didn't scare him away, nothing was ever going to. Barry always had this inquisitive and behind-the-scenes glancing eyes that analyzed every detail of each and everyone's conversations. He would then come out of nowhere with his philosophical and well-thought-out meandering response that felt like it went on and on and on, and which he thought was irrelevant to what you had been speaking about. And my mom would always say, "Barry, get to the point now." But once he had finished it all, it tied up equally and with a powerful meaning at the end of his response. There are so many beautiful stories that I could share with you today, but to share them all would virtually be impossible, as every visit was special in its own way. We most definitely had some exciting visits at the house on the hill, with all the entertainment and dinners and everything that was held at the hill, the house on the hill. It was amazing. And that wouldn't have been possible without Bambi. I would arrive at the house on the hill, and I would always be greeted at the front door with Bambi. And in his hand, of course, was his beer. And my mom always used to say to me that he had this certain time of the day that he would go and fetch his little beers, and he would put them in the fridge, and my mom would call it the shuffling of the beers. And I couldn't ever understand what she meant by the shuffling of the beers. But I understood the one time when I think I spent quite a few days, I think it was in this past December, where Bambi had put his beers inside the fridge and you're shuffling them around. And it was the cutest thing on this planet. And I now understand why my mom would say he's shuffling his beers now. But to carry on, so Bambi would obviously greet me at the door with his beer in his hand. And I would say, "Hey Bambi, how you doing?" And Bambi would reply, "Laura." And to follow right after our greeting was a phenomenal question that was always asked before any question that was started between the two of us, was whether each of us had started our periods. This playful conversation is one I will never forget, and the sight of Barry I will cherish for the rest of my life. Another story and a comment Bambi would throw at me was the time my mom asked me to help her fix the stopcock by the fridge. and I came along with my toolbox. What I thought was a simple job turned out to be one that was a very interesting day, where water was pissing out all over the kitchen. There was hammering going on and drilling, and after a few hours, when we had finished doing what we needed to do, Barry came around the corner and said, "I thought the entire wall was going to come down." From that day, whenever something breaks in the house, he makes a comment about how the wall in his house was almost taken out, and looks at me with those laughing eyes. Over the past couple of weeks, it has been by far the most difficult thing to watch my mom and Claire wait in such enthusiasm for Barry to wake up and come home. The pain that has left in my heart will never be one that will be easily healed. Bambi, I hoped and I prayed, which I am not religious, but was willing to go over and above what one believed to have you come home. I'm completely and utterly devastated that I could not have had one more drink on your beautiful patio with you and your 100 beers and just speak about life and the advice you would always give me. I am honored to have you as my stepdad and wish I could tell you how much you impacted my life, and to tell you thank you. Thank you, Bambi, for making my mom the happiest person alive these past couple of years and treating her as your queen. Secondly, thank you for accepting all of us girls as your own and for gifting us with another beautiful sister. I could not have asked for two perfect families to be as one. Lastly, thank you for all the spoils and gifts that you gave us as your own girls. Let the eagles not take you away into the sunset to rest well and start a new period of your life. P.S. This does not mean you get to take a chance and swoop down and finally take my little fufu as your prey. Love you always, my Bambi. Love your daughter, Laura.
It's hard to believe that Barry is gone. My thoughts are especially with Helen and Claire, who loved him so much. This became evident to me as I watched them stand vigil by Barry's side during his last days. My memory of Barry is one of hospitality and celebration. Barry's openness extended so far as to me entertaining my friends and an international guest at the house on the hill. Our guest was Jason. And to this day, Jason talks about his pre-New Year's party in South Africa at the house on the hill. He says it was one of the best parties he's ever had. Barry, you did manage to show that Englishman how to have a good time. I recently read a question, and the question was, why do I exist? The answer to the question was, so that when I am gone, I become precious. Barry, the memories of you, your home, your time with Helen, her children, her grandchildren, with Claire and Clyde and Leland are precious memories to us, your extended family. We are going to miss you.
To my dearest Uncle Barry, the week leading up to the day we lost you was undoubtedly the most heart-shattering and saddest days of our lives. As a deeply devoted dad, a loving husband, a grandfather, brother, uncle, and a friend to so many, you leave behind a huge void in all of our lives. To me, you will always be remembered as our Bamberger elder, our fun and naughty uncle, our hero. You lived a full life, Uncle Barry, giving everything a good go, getting to tick off those bucket list items, and of course you were always first in line when it came to a good challenge. Your red hair was absolutely symbolic of your fiery, mischievous nature. Your reserved sense of integrity, pride, sentiments, and dignity were always present in everything you did. And of course, your stubbornness led the pack, but that's a born Bamberger thing, and we totally get you on that one. Thank you for being such a special uncle to me. We certainly shared a special bond and connection, which was formed when we lost your brother, my father, Trevor, now 25 years ago. Thank you for always being just that phone call away, any day, any time, any hour, for having our backs over the years, randomly checking in the way you did, and loving and caring so deeply in your own way, the Barry way. Thank you for sharing all the family history, stories, and pictures that you did with me, answering so many unanswered questions that I had. These were very special moments which I will treasure forever. Your wicked sense of humour, your baiting and sarcastic commentary that only those related to you or knew you very well would totally get. I know that they were actually filled with affection, followed by that naughty chuckle of yours. If I close my eyes and think of you, this chuckle is what I see so clearly as stand out. I will always remember you in this way. As fate would have it, you were for the most surrounded by girls in the family. Girls with lots of chattering and lots to say and lots to ask. You were always quietly listening, a little giggle under your breath, be it through serious conversations or brief chats, but just the odd question or two from your side would let you find those checking in answers you actually were looking for. We knew it and we appreciated it so much. I'm so sorry that you had to struggle the way you did in the last 2 weeks. As much as we wanted and prayed for you to stay with us, we knew we had to let you go so that you could be free of all the pain and suffering you were enduring. You were so brave. You put up the biggest fights of your life. Uncle Barry, your legacy will live on through us remaining Bambies for all of our days to come. We will carry you with us in our hearts and memory and know that you will be watching down over us too. Until we meet again one day, know that you will be sorely missed and forever treasured. Fly free with Dad, Granny, Poggy, and all your other friends and family you loved from this life, enjoying those scotches, beers, and ciggies. Rest easy, my Uncle Barry, and know we too will be sure to look out and after each other. Love you forever and ever and ever. Your niece, Julie.
Barry, I am shocked and saddened by your sudden passing. Thank you for being Helen's other half and loving her the way you did. You brought out the best in her. She did warn you of her family's quirky ways, but you were so tolerant. You even had to put up with our early morning phone calls where we would solve all the current world affairs. You were the perfect gentleman, always so welcoming and generous towards all of us. Thank you for all the bras and lovely meals we had at your beautiful home. We will miss you.
Dearest Barry, Bambi, Mr. B, BB, and Bumblebee to my ladybird. The roller coaster nightmare you and I and our family were on over the past month is finally over. I'm so thankful that you are no longer suffering. There are just no words to describe the mixed emotions that I experienced. Wishing that your suffering could end, but knowing that that would require that you would need to take your last breath, and you would be gone forever. A selfish choice, if ever there had been a choice. It was left to you to decide when your last breath would be. Your body was healing, and your primordial survival instinct had kicked in. It was excruciating to watch. Finally, on the early hours of 1st of December, you decided it was time to go. My dear darling Bambi, the nightmare is over, but the questions remain. Why? How did this happen? What went wrong? But today is not for that discussion. I promise that if I am able, I will find the answers. But today is a celebration of your life. Your 70 years on this earth, what you brought and the legacy you will leave behind. Your life with me began when you were already 57 years old and I was about to turn 50. In fact, you and I had met each other twice. Back in the day at Corribrick when we were both married to other people and pretty much did not have too much to do with each other beyond an occasional accounts meeting or a greeting in the office corridors. I remember one such meeting where I congratulated you on the birth of your baby daughter and asked what you had named her. Our second meet-up in September 2017 was a chance catch-up. Having both moved away from Corribrick, we discussed what had transpired over the past 25 years in our lives. And as they say, the rest is history. You became a permanent fixture in our home and so wonderfully easy to have around. You were kind to my children and my family, who all took an instant liking to you. No small feat with the Manroe clan. You had an uncomplicated way of fitting in. You embraced my many friends, the Golden Girls, the Daisies, and my new friends in the West Rand, and they all embraced you right back. Your beautiful house on the hill was drawn and the ground broken when I came into your life. It was an enormous task that you had undertaken, and I think it was nice for you to have someone by your side, watching your vision become a reality, holding your hand through the many trials and tribulations of building a home. Towards the end of that process, you asked if I would be moving in with you when the house was complete, and you would formalize by proposing and by getting engaged. In 2010, during the Soccer World Cup, we announced our engagement. In January 2013, we were married. You, the serial bridegroom, married for the third time lucky. And yes, I was to be your last wife. Fast forward to today. We've been together for 14 years and married for 8. Almost 9. I can only describe our marriage together as one big adventure. We had some really scary moments, many crazy moments, but mostly happy moments. I always wanted a husband who was there, always present and available, someone I could call my best friend. I would tell my friends, be careful what you wish for. You were there, ever present, always available, wanting nothing more than my undivided attention. I became mom to another daughter, dear Claire, the little girl whose name I had inquired about so many years ago, and nan to Leland. Finally, after so many girls, I had my own boy. I'm sure anyone who has ever worked with you or for you will agree with me when I say that you were a brilliant delegator. And through that process, you gave me so many opportunities to succeed. When COVID hit and our world changed forever, you and I were locked down together, completely excluded from the outside world. This togetherness should challenge any relationship, but quite the opposite happened. You finally had me all to yourself. It was the strangest of times. We were happy just to rest in each other's presence. Our relationship grew closer than ever during that time. Per, I will miss you so much, my dear sweet husband. Planning our family brides, our fun evenings around the pub, and when the music got loud, so very loud. The wonderful meals you cooked, delicious curries, the best lamb shanks, and the world-famous Bamberger oxtail. You would disappear into the kitchen amongst a dozen pots and pans, and surface 3 days later with the most delicious, succulent oxtail. I will miss your many phone calls, asking, what time will you be home? Sitting on our patio every evening watching the sunset, winter or summer. What a privileged life you allowed me to share with you. How many golf days together where I got down to a 21 handicap. I can honestly say that today I'm a better person than the person you met 14 years ago. And it's because of you. You went along with every suggestion I ever made. Just happy to see me happy. I know you love me. You made me aware of that every single day. My message to all my friends and family still lucky enough to have their man. Be kind to him, even if he irritates the living hell out of you. Be gentle and sweet with him. Appreciate him every day. Show him you love him. Tell him you love him every day. Thank you, Barry, for the time we had together. I love you and I miss you.
Hannah to sing The Rose.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong, just remember, in the winter, far beneath the bitter snows, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
I would like to invite anyone who wishes to say a few words. Please come up.
Sure. Okay. Thank you all for being here today for my dad. It's really in your face, eh? All right. As a little girl, you all know your dad to be your hero. I'm 38 years old, and my dad still is my hero. And that hasn't changed. I could honestly say I could not be prouder of my dad than I am today. Whew, sorry. He fought an amazing battle towards the end. And with me and my siblings, Karen, Laura, Michelle, we all stood there with my other mother, and we fought with him. He fought the hardest battle of his life, and he succeeded. He chose when he was going to go, and he did it well. I will always hold precious to me, can't even see now, those silly little videos that he instructed Helen to take and send to the girls, even if it was just eye drops. Today, going forward, we will carry on the famous oxtail, and we'll try and perfect it. It will never be like Dad made it, but we will try. Thank you for everyone coming here to celebrate my dad. Thank you for singing. Thank you for emceeing. And thank you for everyone's beautiful words. Like you all know, my dad is amazing. Okay, on a different note, someone else sent something through. Leon mentioned him earlier. Gary Harlow emailed something through. They unfortunately can't be here. They are watching via stream. He would like us to read. Barry was a treasured friend, work colleague and partner over 24 years. We never once had a quarrel. We shared many beers, stories, birthdays, Christmas functions at DLM, lunches at Codfather, laughs at serious board meetings. He was a dying breed of businessman who could do a deal on just a handshake. He was a great and astute businessman who built DLM into a formidable company and leading player in the valve and metering sector. His word was impeccable. Again, honesty, integrity, frankness, transparency, and dry sense of humor, guided by his interactions with people. He was loved and respected for that. We are all poorer for his passing, but I will treasure the memories of my journey with Barry, for which I feel blessed. Mandy and I wish to send our sincere condolences and love to Helen and Claire and family on his passing. We wish you strength to cope with your loss, but also find the time in these sad moments to reflect as often as possible on the privilege to have shared a journey with such a loved and wonderful man. Much love, Gary Harlow.
Thank you, Claire. Is there anybody else?
Is it close enough? Hi, everybody. Try to keep it sweet and short. I can just keep thinking about even prior to meeting Barry, Claire had built up such a repertoire for him that I was actually sort of afraid, and he was the first father that I was ever afraid to meet. He just had such a personality. I remember the first time I did meet him, and coincidentally I met him and Claire's mother the same day she was visiting, all nervous, sitting on the couch. Don't know what to do, twiddling my thumbs. Like I said, never felt that way before. But yeah, I think everybody's pretty much said everything that can be said about Barry. a good man, a good person, commanded respect. That's something that I think everybody knows. A good role model, definitely. I know that Claire tries to follow his ways as best as she can. I'm a little bit deviant that way. I like to lead my own path. But nonetheless, Barry will always be remembered, always be respected, and we'll keep his name and his legend alive. Thank you, everybody.
Anybody else? We will then move on to the slideshow.
These mist-covered mountains are a home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle raged high, and though it hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different suns, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. Now the sun's gone to hell, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, in every line in your palm. We're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
I'd like to ask Hannah to come up and sing Time to Say Goodbye.
Sogno all'orizzonte, manca le parole. Sì, lo so che non c'è luce una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non ci sei tu con me, su le finestre mostra tutti il mio cuore che hai acceso, chiudi dentro me la luce che hai incontrato per strada. Time to say goodbye. Paesi che non ho mai veduto e visto con te, adesso sì li vivrò con te. Partirò su navi per mari che io lo so non esistono più. Con te li vivrò. Quando sei lontana sogno all'orizzonte, manca le parole. Io sì lo che sei con me, tu mia luna, tu sei qui con me, mio sole, tu sei qui con me,
Please place your pebbles in the dish around the candle as you leave. Thank you for our time together to celebrate Barry's life. We will all miss him. You are all invited to stay for drinks and snacks, and please stay. Let's talk about Barry, let's remember the good times, and let's have a Bamberger celebration in his honor.